how does one truly detect one's character? And I can't remember, was it Carl Rogers or Carl Jung who talked about the iceberg, where we only see people in the top of the iceberg, the visible part, and
Mhm.
most of how people really are below the water, right? Because
Right.
icebergs are mainly ice under the water. And and that's the big thing. I mean, as we look at pastors, priests, CEOs who have what we would say fallen from grace, had
Mhm.
a moral indiscretion or some kind of infidelity. And we get surprised. Like, I never thought Pastor so and so would do
Mhm.
that, or President so and so would do that. I know you're not a biblical prophet, or maybe you are, but how do how do you get a an injection for that, a shot, so you have some antibodies that we pick the right person? So I know that's a difficult question, but
It is.
how can you kind of ping somebody to figure out truly what their character is like?
A couple of things. One is that's why I think it is good to have an external consultant helping you along the way, because it's hopefully an outside, more objective perspective. Because especially if it's someone that you even only faintly sort of know, sometimes you're a little bit more leaning toward that individual a little more positively because you know them. And sometimes it takes someone who doesn't know them to see things in a little bit different light. And I think what I've seen some people do also in an interview, this is another example. It not isn't quite getting at what you're talking about to a certain degree, but it was a woman who was being interviewed, and everybody, the whole search committee knew her. Because she was very integrated into that particular industry, and they really liked her. And I'll admit, she was a very likable young woman, so I can understand why they were so excited about her. But there was one key thing that she needed to be able to do in this job. And they had even told me early on, the search committee, I asked them, what is a deal breaker? If they don't have this, we know it's just not going to work. Well, she did not have the deal breaker. Yet they kept trying to almost convince her that she could do it. Well, we know you. You'll enjoy it. It'll be easy for you. Don't worry about it. And I could tell she was even getting uncomfortable with all the things that they were telling her, and she finally dropped out. She was their top choice, and she ended up just dropping out. And in conversations with her, some of it there were other issues, but I sensed it was kind of going back to that search committee wasn't really seeing what was really happening, but someone from the outside sometimes can really see it from a different perspective. And you always want to assume the best of individuals when you're interviewing them, but also when you get a hint of something that doesn't feel quite right, you should really listen to that. And you should spend some time looking at it from other perspectives and seeing, are there other individuals? Do we maybe need to have a few more references and maybe ask specifically around that particular issue? Because we're just sort of sensing something. So even those things that are just maybe not real obvious, but are just giving you an uneasy feeling, don't pass over it,
Hmm.
but really
That,
dig into it.
that is a great advantage I didn't think about before, of having external search firm looking for a leader, because we have so many biases. And you're right, we know somebody, so we wave them off. And it's and even some churches say we can do it on our own, or we'll just work with the denomination, but that could have a lot of built-in biases of,
Mm.
we're just going to do the same thing of how the denomination or the church has done it, and not look for this radical shepherd boy David, who was so out of the box to
Mm.
be the next king of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's really fascinating what you say that. It works both ways. When First Pres Honolulu, my former church, was looking for a senior pastor, they did know me. I was the associate pastor. And so because they knew me, they picked somebody else to be the next senior pastor. So I wasn't sure. And the only reason I did become senior pastor was that because their first choice said no.
Oh,
And so I was like, all right, let's go back to the bottom of the barrel. Let's have Dad.
oh
And,
no.
and unfortunately, they got stuck with me for 29 years. But I guess it could work both ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know you so well, you're not the one. And then it turned out I was the one, but it's
Right.
so it goes both ways. But the character thing is interesting, Kathryn, because without naming names, you know some well-known pastors
Hmm.
who did very well in ministry for their first 10 years or more.
Right.
And then we found out, oh my gosh, they had this addiction issue or sexual issue or financial issue that nobody of us knew. And then, of course, boards say, oh, well, we know Pastor so and so or President so and so. He would never do that. But that was what he was doing.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to think, Kathryn, what is a. You said character is very important, more important than the platform, but what are some criteria or litmus paper tests that you do? Maybe it's a one-on-one conversation, not in front of the whole search committee,
Mm.
that you do that says, okay, this is what I'm kind of looking for, and it'll be interesting how they answer on this question. Is there anything, of course you're divulging in front of everybody your secrets, but is there something you could feel comfortable sharing in what you're kind of trying to detect?
One of the things I look for is how much are they talking about other people?
Mm,
Um, or are they only talking about themselves and only talking about their accomplishments and what they, if they're leaving another position, what are they going to most miss about that? And if they talk about things like what they've been able to accomplish there, but never mention other people, for me, that's a red flag because that's showing me they haven't developed their emotional intelligence enough to a certain point to be able to talk about team members in a way that's very positive or share their success with other people or just have enough of a heart for the people that they've worked with to be able to say, I'm really going to miss these people. It's
mm,
going to be hard for me to walk away from them. I've
mm,
become so close to them. That's a positive thing for me to be able to hear that and to be able to tell, is that genuine or not? Because for me, that is a sign of real character, of a leader who, you want a leader who truly, genuinely cares about other people